my left, Alex Juan to his left, Jason Winston to his left. Four of us comprise a quorum, so we're going to get started. The other members, I'm sure, will be along shortly. I will make a motion to approve the agenda. Second by Juan. Let's open that vote.
Vote is open. The vote is closed.
All right, the ayes have it. You've all carefully read the minutes. I'll make a motion to adopt them. Second by Juan. Let's open that vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
Thank you. Public comment. Is anyone signed up?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have two speakers.
Okay, and here they are. Yolanda Robertson. Morning.
Councilman, regular general audience. My name is Yolanda Robertson, and I've lived in Atlanta, I want to say 20 years or so forth. I've lived here for a long time, and I have a property that the tenant that was in the property was not able to establish service because City Hall was closed due to COVID. They are a low-income tenant and elderly. The bill for 2 years was a water leak. So they didn't charge, the city of Atlanta didn't charge that, the tenant paid that money. They made me pay $4,000. That tenant was in the house. This particular person by the name of Keisha Dixon had them, after I paid the $4,000, made them wait another 2 weeks before the water would be restored. My issue is that I applied for the COVID relief funds for utilities, was not granted access, and I paid it, and I made an agreement. I don't want any more mess about this, because even though I knew the bill was exorbitant, if you have a $50 bill for 2 years, that's $600. 600 times 2 is $1,200. So $4,000 is an exorbitant amount of money. It wiped my savings out. So I explained that to the young lady that was down there, that this is all of my savings. Well, we're not going to turn it on. She got very belligerent and very unprofessional with me. I'm sorry. So I paid it. I paid all my savings, and I reported her for her inappropriate comments. In retaliation, she sent me another bill for $1,400. Now, the original payment that I made, I notated that the delinquency was fully satisfied because I knew she was going to retaliate based on her conversation and her demeanor and behavior. I subsequently was following up, trying to make sure the tenant was doing the right thing. Then I got another bill for $1,400. And I called the customer service and I asked them, why am I receiving this bill? I don't have this type of money. I'm a public servant myself, and I have to undergo background checks. I have to pay my bills. Okay, that's it. I guess the time is up. But I just want to know why I haven't been able to receive COVID funds. They've been saying the float has been extended. I haven't been able to receive one dime. Not one dime. And I'm a taxpayer, and I pay taxes for the watershed to collect these fees. But I'm having to do my job and collect rent. It's hard enough for me to collect the rent. So I'm just trying to wonder, why is the posturing like this?
That was an awful lot of information.
Okay.
And the four of us are not going to be able to straighten this out. But here's what I'm going to do. Commissioner Browning is right there. She's over the watershed department. And I'm hoping that she can get with you and point you in the right direction and help untangle what is obviously a long and unfortunate situation. Okay? All right. Adrian Coleman.
Good morning. My name is Adrian Coleman Tyler, and I'm here to ask the Utilities Committee of the state and the status of public access television, specifically People TV. As you know, the contract that you renewed in June with People TV calls for People TV, which is a public board of the City of Atlanta, to provide quarterly reports to the administration and the utilities. The last quarterly report to utilities was October 26, 2021. The Board of Directors of People TV hasn't met since January of this year. They haven't met for 10 months. In June, Councilman Shook, you may remember that I asked the question, who was the mayor negotiating with in terms of People TV, because the Board of People TV is illegal. The board members that are currently serving were elected by the board, and according to the bylaws, they have to be re-elected after their term is up every 2 years. That has not happened. There's a difference between council and mayoral appointments where they serve until they are reappointed. These people, everybody on that board was elected by the board. The construct of People TV and public boards is that nobody gets a monopoly and control of that and just maintains it for years. These people have been in control for 6 years. They won't even allow the board to elect new officers. The last time I spoke to the chair of People TV about 3 weeks ago, he told me that they were facing eviction. Now, this is not the first time they've been facing financial difficulties for quite some time. My concern this morning is not about People TV. However, the franchise agreement, as you know, if People TV does default, my concern is about the public access channel, which Comcast would have a right to reclaim. And the franchise agreement does not have a mitigation clause that was removed by the law department in 2019, that if any of the public educational government channels are lost because of not meeting the requirements for programming, that the city had the opportunity to mitigate it and reclaim the channel. That clause was removed in 2019. So I'm here today. I know you only have one meeting left this year. You know, we had a lot of debates, earlier promises of work sessions. Here we are at the end of the year. A new committee will come in January. Councilman Shook, I'm here today, quite honestly, to ask you, in the 2 weeks or so that you have left, can you please put it on the agenda to have public hearing, work session, or something whereby the administration and People TV can at least provide this committee and the public with some kind of status as to where they are, such that the city and stakeholders have the opportunity to mitigate whatever challenges they're facing so that we don't lose the public access channel. I thank you so very much.
All right, and honestly, you're the first person who's brought up the whole world of People TV and all the associated issues in quite some time. So you're right, the committee and the public is due an update, and we've got a record of your questions. I'll commit to making sure those get to the right people and answered. And I think based on that, we can decide whether a work session is warranted or not. But we've got all your questions on the record. I'll personally go back and write them all down. I've got some of my own. But so let's follow that course, all right? Okay, thank you. Could you sound our first read, please?
22-0-1882, an ordinance by City Utilities Committee authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to amend the FY 2023 Water and Wastewater Renewal and Extension Fund budget in the amount of $8 million and 0 cents to transfer funds from watershed reserves for appropriations and add funds to the Program Management Services Team project and for other purposes.
All right, thank you. That's the first read. We'll take it up at our next sitting. The first of our ordinances for second read is 22-0-1844, an ordinance by Utilities authorizing the CFO to amend the FY 2023 Solid Waste Services Revenue Fund budget to transfer appropriations within the Department of Public Works from various line items to contractual obligation line items in the amount of $8,064,538 as approved under Code Section 6-304B and for other purposes. Ms. Davis.
Good morning, Chairman Shook and members of the committee. Melissa Davis, Director of Finance and Accounting for the Department of Public Works. This legislation would amend the fiscal year 23 Solid Waste Services Revenue Fund and allow the department to reallocate the resources to its consulting and professional services account to appropriately fund several critical service contracts to include contracts such as garbage disposal, yard trimming, post-closure care. About 120 positions that are currently budgeted in the Solid Waste Services Revenue Fund that are responsible currently for common good sanitary services will be transferred over to the department's general fund budget for special services. So we're just asking for your approval to reallocate those dollars to fund the contract account.
Yeah, okay, let's open this up. Mr. Hillis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I need some more details and minutia about why this is needed. You know, we just spent 6 to 8 months, you know, doing a study through the law department because the previous study was done incorrectly. So I guess first of all, some detailed questions. This solid waste services revenue fund that's referenced,
Yes.
is that fund filled by the millage rate or by the solid waste fee?
The solid waste fee. So currently, the Solid Waste Revenue Services Fund houses all of our staff, and we actually have a companion paper or related paper that's being presented tomorrow in FEC. It's Ordinance 2200-1865, and that paper we're requesting authorization to create the new offices, and we'll reallocate the $20 million that was budgeted in the general fund for special services. So essentially what we're doing with this request is asking to reallocate the funds that were budgeted for the services that were now moving over to the general fund.
Okay, but so we passed the new structure in June. We adopted a new budget, I believe, that same day. So why was that already lined up to go? I know we don't get the funds until Dr. Ferdinand writes us a check, but go ahead and get that structure set up. Why are we waiting to now to do that? Is that an oversight or what's the?
No, we have to, in terms of just the structure, it was a process. We actually have to get the paper approved by council to create the department orgs in the general funds. Once that occurs, we can then reallocate the $20 million that was budgeted during the budget development. And then the staff will then work with the Department of Finance and Procurement to move those resources, those expenses over to the general fund. So it wasn't a misappropriation or any error with the budget. It was just a two-step process. So the first thing that we need to do is move, and that's why we have the related paper, is to have the Department of Finance work with us to create those new department orgs so that we can move the personnel and the related expenses over to the general fund. And so what this paper is doing is asking to reallocate the funds that were initially budgeted for those special services, just because those department orgs were not set up yet in the general fund.
All right, so if you would, and I would like this on paper too, and whoever eventually makes the motion, I'd like this to be a conditional approval of this. But if you could just detail again the line items that this $8 million is being taken from and being placed into.
Yes, sir. It's actually included in the legislation.
Okay, I don't have the full paper in front of me.
Okay. You want me to detail it now? It's
I'll
quite
pull it up
a
on the
few line
computer.
items.
I'll look at it on the computer. I'll defer to Mr. Chair, and he can let someone else speak, and I'll follow up if I have any additional questions. Thank you.
My pleasure.
We've been joined by the Honorable Andrea Boone. Mr. Wan.
All right, so now I'm confused.
Okay?
All right, so we approved the budget.
Yes.
There was the 20 million in general fund dollars that I think this is addressing. I mean, this paper relates to that $20 million in general fund.
Now, this paper is actually a request to reallocate $8 million that was budgeted in Solid Waste Services Revenue Fund. But because we are moving expenses over to the general fund, once that paper is approved, once we move those expenses, what we're asking is to reallocate funds that were dedicated to those areas that were providing the special services, which now will be funded out of the general fund. But the Ordinance 2200-1865 will address that tomorrow. We'll have to work with, once approved by council, we'll have to work with the Department of Finance to create those departments. At that time, we will then move the current expenses to the general fund.
All right, so this is a timing issue then.
It is a timing
So
issue.
basically, we went forward post-budget with everything in the solid waste revenue fund, knowing that 20 million of it was supposed to be carved out for the general fund.
Correct.
This is the first step in moving 8 million of it into the general fund. We'll take care of the accounting stuff and the actual codes and all that on Wednesday. But this, is that correct?
That's correct. So
Okay.
this will address that,
Okay.
those expenses.
Okay, and then the balance of the $12 million to get to the 20, is that coming later, or once the accounts are set up, or?
Well, so the $8 million is addressing the first part of the fiscal year. Any expenses moving forward, once we work with the finance department, those expenses will actually be incurred in the general fund and will not require any sort of transfer.
A motion to approve. Ms. Boone seconds it.
Hey, Troy.
Tanya Lewis has joined us. Yeah, we're going to, how many more pieces of legislation will be coming forward in order to complete getting there from here?
Well, tomorrow will be the last piece of legislation, so really it was just this piece and the ordinance that's being presented tomorrow on FEC. With that, we will be able to reallocate the $20 million that's currently sitting in the general fund's consulting account, and we'll be able to reallocate that appropriately to all of the major categories, the salary accounts and everything associated with salaries, consultant supplies.
I'm going to abstain and look forward to the second half of this conversation, which will occur in finance tomorrow. There's been a motion and a second. Anyone else? Let's open the vote.
The vote is open.
Yes.
The vote is closed.
All right, the ayes have it with 2 abstentions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is 22-0-1845. This is an ordinance by utilities authorizing the CFO to amend the FY 2023 Water and Wastewater Renewal and Extension Fund budget in the amount of $4,200,000 to transfer funds from watershed reserves for appropriations and add funds to the annual plant maintenance projects and for other purposes. Mr. Fletcher.
Good morning, Chairman Shook, council members. Quentin Fletcher, Department of Watershed Management. The purpose of this legislation is to add funding to the annual plant maintenance projects and provide services to address a comprehensive list of critical needs for maintenance at the various treatment facilities. In connection with the capital improvement program, the need to fund critical maintenance to help maintain operation and efficiency of the DWM drinking water treatment and wastewater facilities. The scope of this project includes implementing various service contracts for the following: tunnel maintenance, to provide on-call diving services for physical inspection, evaluation, maintenance, and repairs for underground linear infrastructure and deep tunnel system. Incinerator maintenance, to perform work on the 2 incinerators at the RM Clayton WRC. Dryer maintenance, to perform work on the 2 thermo dryers at the RM Clayton WRC. Noresco annual maintenance and verification services. Ostera annual operation and maintenance. This project includes the operation and maintenance of the nutrient recovery and treatment system. This request is critical as the city is required to meet the requirements of the NPDES permits issued by the Georgia Environmental Protection Division. Under these permits, the city is required to maintain critical systems to meet discharge limits to protect the public health and the Chattahoochee River water quality. Subject to your questions, that concludes my briefing.
Thank you. Mr. Hillis.
Thank you, DC Fletcher. Just to summarize, so this is all, I guess, basically what you'd categorize as general maintenance. There's no large capital improvements or?
No large capital improvements, annual maintenance on different systems that we must maintain.
Since I have an N, there's one thing I did want to ask about at RM Clayton. I've brought it up before in committee. Speaking of maintenance and tunnels, the overflow there, right at Peachtree Creek. I brought up the issue before where all the riffraff and lots of erosion basically pushed all that riffraff out into Peachtree Creek. One, are y'all aware of that? Two, do you have a plan to mitigate that and restore the creek and put that riffraff back where it should be, there where the tunnel comes onto the end of the creek?
Yes, Councilmember Hillis, we're looking into that.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? I'll move approval. Second by Juan. Let's open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
All right, 6-0. The ayes have it. 22-0-1874 is an ordinance by Ms. Boone authorizing the mayor or the commissioner of watershed management to execute an agreement with the state of the Georgia Department of Human Services, Division of Family and Children's Services, on behalf of the Department of Watershed Management for the purpose of accepting and applying federal funds to water and sewer accounts to assist low-income households eligible for the Low-Income Household Water Assistance Program, to authorize the municipal clerk to authenticate the agreement without affixing the seal of the City of Atlanta. All funds received will be deposited into and paid from, et cetera. Commissioner.
Hey, good morning, Chairman Shook, Council Members Makita Brown, and Commissioner for Department of Watershed Management. Purpose of this legislation is to accept and apply for federal LEWAP funds to the City of Atlanta Department of Watershed for single-family accounts. State of Georgia Department of Human Resources, Division of Family and Children's Services has received $37.1 million to provide funds for water assistance to eligible low-income households through the LEWAP Low-Income Water Assistance Program. This legislation allows DWM to receive and apply the LEWAP proceeds to aged accounts and to assist customers that are in need through an expanded network of community action authorities. There were previously 2 authorities. There's now 13 that are in place to help and assist households. To date, Department of Watershed Management customers have received in excess of $1.1 million since the program's inception last November, utilizing 2 community action authorities. $800,000 in the last quarter alone. The expansion in the number of community action authorities to 13, as is contemplated in this legislation, is expected to significantly increase the distribution of this benefit for our water account holders. While Atlanta's DWM customers have been leading recipient of the federal funds, our goal is to maximize all available resources to our customers as we move towards shutoffs at the top of the new year. This legislation, again, will provide resources to eligible single-family customers that might otherwise experience an interruption in service.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner, so I'm supportive of this program. I just need to understand a little bit how it layers into all the different programs that we do have. First of all, you said the state was awarded $37 million. That's statewide, correct?
So yeah, $37 million statewide. So this is the second tranche. Last year was the first tranche. State received via federal funds about $37 million.
Okay.
Through the Fulton County Community Action Plan, they got about $8 million. And so our customers will benefit from those monies.
Okay, and then are they administering the
They are.
Not us?
Not us.
Okay. And so help me understand how, I mean, it sounds like we've got float, we have care and conserve, and now we have this program in terms of if someone comes to us and needs assistance or evaluation for potential assistance. So how do y'all navigate through those options?
So we're utilizing all those menu of options to support the customers that are in need. So for LEWAP, again, you have to meet a certain income criteria. Our Care and Conserve program will have the customers apply for the LEWAP proceeds. And that community action plan or organization will approve the monies, and they'll notify us of the proceeds that the customer was able to benefit from.
So if water customer A comes to us and says, I need assistance, there's one intake point for the city, and then
There's
we
one
say, oh,
intake.
okay, based on our programs, we think you best qualify for this, and.
Right. And with the Care and Conserve program, that is in place as well. It's got a plumbing assistance component, so if there's a leak.
Gotcha.
So we just make sure that
Great.
we extend all of those programs to benefit the customers.
Would you say that, and I just, because I want to say the word LEWOP, would you say that their criteria is more stringent or less stringent than what we already have in place with our Care and Conserve?
I think it's on par with us.
Very
Yeah,
good.
it's on
Thank
par.
you. I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Second by Ms. Boone. Mr. Hillis, followed by Mr. Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Commissioner Browning. Just, is there a certain amount applied for? Because I didn't see this in here. I just see the total amount given through given to DHS for dispersal, and then I see previously we received the 1.2 million you referenced. Will there be a certain amount attached to this application for relief, or is it just you get what they give you?
We get what they give. It really depends on what the customers are qualified for. So through September, the LEWOP, 421 accounts benefited from the program, and the funds applied were a little bit over $902,000.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Lewis. Okay. So language about the city seal not needing to be affixed is new to me. Why is that language in here? Is that because
I'm sorry, what language, sir?
there's language in here indicating that or asking that the municipal clerk to authenticate the agreement without affixing the seal of the city?
Mr. Chair, Robert Moses, Department of Law. The DHS require electronic signatures to sign the agreement. They won't accept an agreement signed using wet signatures. And at present, the city does not have the ability to affix an electronic seal to a document, so that is why we need to waive that part of the code requiring documents to be signed with the official seal.
Right. That's new to me. I mean, we enter into a lot of agreements with that GDOT, administers.
Yeah, GDOT is still accepting wet signatures, so that goes through the normal signature process to the mayor's office. DHS are not allowing us to sign electronically with wet signatures.
All right, thank you. There's been a motion and a second. Let's open the vote.
The vote is open. Please vote. The vote is closed.
All right, the ayes have it, so ordered. We have a communication that needs to be addressed as the nominee is here. That would be held item number 14 on page 622C 5177, a communication from members Overstreet, Lewis, and Waits, reappointing Mr. Clifford Ice to serve as a member of the Water and Sewer Appeals Board. Appointment is for a term of 3 years to begin retroactively November 7th of this year and to expire November 6th of 2025. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Clifford Ice. I had the privilege to work for the city of Atlanta for 31 years. It was a very enjoyable experience for me. After retirement, I had the opportunity to serve in various capacities, still in public service. One of those has been the Water and Sewer Appeals Board. I now serve as chair of the Water and Sewer Appeals Board. As you know, the city of Atlanta is one of the unique cities, municipalities that have a Water and Sewer Appeals Board. Typically, cities don't have that. So it's been a wonderful opportunity to do that. Just so happened that this morning, you had a case of the type of cases, it was an example of the type of cases that come before the Water and Sewer Appeals Board. So we get that opportunity to mitigate those cases. I would like to say that the Department of Watershed Management, they do a wonderful, wonderful job of dealing with those cases prior to they get to us. So very few changes we really have to make. That's a compliment to them. As I said earlier, I'm the chair of that board presently. It's been a good experience. It gives me the opportunity to still be involved in public service and to carry over some of the information I learned when I was with Watershed Management. I would like to continue to serve on the board of the Water and Sewer Appeals Board. So I await your decision concerning reappointment.
Well, thank you for your past service on this board, not to mention your 31 years of service here with the city. Any comments or questions? Motion to approve by Boone, second by Juan. Let's open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
All right, thank you so much. All right, colleagues, we have 5 resolutions. They all accomplish the same thing or authorize the same thing, but for 5 separate projects. So if there's no objection, let's take them all together. The first is item number 5, 22R4726, resolution by utilities authorizing the mayor to enter into an MOU and contract item agreement with GDOT on behalf of Watershed Management for the purpose of adjusting water and sewer infrastructure that conflicts with the Department of Transportation's intersection improvement project, number of which is listed, along State Route 3 and State Route 70 in the amount not to exceed $9,084, all contracted work to be charged to and paid from, etc. Item 6 is 22R4727, resolution by utilities authorizing the mayor to enter into an MOU and contract item agreement with GDOT on behalf of Watershed for the purpose of adjusting water and sewer infrastructure that conflicts with the Department of Transportation's intersect improvement project, number of which is listed, along State Route 3 and State Route 70 in Fulton County in an amount not to exceed $26,277.75, all contracted work being charged to and paid from, etc. Item 7 is 22R4728, resolution by City Utilities Committee authorizing the mayor to enter into an MOU and contract item agreement with GDOT on behalf of Watershed for the purpose of adjusting water and sewer infrastructure that conflicts with the Department of Transportation's milling and resurfacing project, number of which is indicated, along State Route 236, Lindbergh Drive, northeast from State Route 237, which is Piedmont Road, northeast to the DeKalb County line, in an amount not to exceed $174,441.60, all work to be charged to and paid from, etc. Number 8 is 22R4729, resolution by utilities authorizing the mayor to enter into an MOU with GDOT on behalf of Watershed for the purpose of adjusting water and sewer infrastructure that conflicts with the Department of Transportation's intersect improvement project along State Route 54, State Route 401, I-75 South, and State Route 42 in Fulton County in an amount not to exceed $31,442.82. And item number 9, 22R4730, resolution by utilities authorizing the mayor to enter into an MOU with GDOT on behalf of Watershed for the purpose of adjusting water infrastructure that conflicts with the Department of Transportation's bridge replacement project on County Road 614, Oakley Road, at Broadnax Creek Bridge in an amount not to exceed $8,535.85. Commissioner.
Good morning, Chairman Shook, council members, Makita Browning, Watershed Department. Purpose of these legislations holistically is to request the mayor to enter into contract item agreements with the Georgia Department of Transportation to appropriate funds in the amounts that have been requested for construction services relating to several GDOT intersection improvement projects. The scope of work requires relocation and adjustment of various fire hydrants, water valves, meters, boxes, and vaults as needed to finish grade to accommodate the projects, to expedite the staging of construction and minimize service interruptions. It's in the best interest for us to include this utility work in GDOT's construction contracts. The program limits COA's liability to traffic and safety concerns by including the COA work as part of the road work, GDOT's road work, and the IGA provides for COA's design and related CM services to be a part of GDOT's construction contracts with oversight from DWM Construction Management Division. Most of the projects are slated to start first and second quarter of next year. concludes my remarks, subject to any questions you might have.
Motion to approve by Mr. Hillis, second by someone down there, Mr. Winston. Y'all sound, one of you needs to sit over there next time. If there's nothing else, let's open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
The ayes have it, so ordered. Thank you. We have a held item, which is ripe for action today. That is item number 12, 22-0-1802, amend an ordinance by members Lewis, Shook, Juan, Hillis, Boone, and Winston is substituted by City Utilities to authorize the naming of the Bellwood Quarry Pumping Station located at 900 Lois Street, the Shirley Clark Franklin Pumping Station and Reservoir, to waive certain provisions of the city code relating to the dedication of public places within the city, which are not applicable where a dedication is initiated by the city, to waive certain additional notice requirements contained in the code section listed, to waive the requirement that this ordinance be placed on one agenda of the affected neighborhood planning units for general information purposes. The code section is cited and for other purposes. And we held this at Mr. Hillis's request to make sure that the NPU in question had a chance to review it, which they have.
Yeah. Yes, we sought approvals from MPUs G and J, and we received favorable feedback from both. And the naming ceremony is scheduled for December 19th.
Oh, excellent. Questions or comments? I'll move approval. Second by Mr. Hillis. Let's open that vote.
The vote is open. Please vote. The vote is closed.
All right, the ayes have it. I want to thank Mrs. Lewis again for initiating this very appropriate gesture. Do we have any other items to come before us today?
No, Mr. Chair.
All right, seeing none and assuming there are no announcements, we're adjourned.